Okay, so in today's notes, 11.4, we're going to be talking about a two-way table. So we're going to be finding and interpreting marginal frequencies is what we call it. And as we mentioned in the word wall earlier, when we say marginal frequencies, that just means the total. So basically we're going to be adding. So if you know how to add, you should be able to do what we're doing today. You have a calculator, so that can do it for you anyways. Now, in a two-way table is a frequency table that displays data collected from one source that belongs to two different categories. So we are going to have some categories, and we're going to get data that was collected. One category of data is represented by rows, the other is represented by columns. So for instance, the two-way table that you see here below shows the results of a survey that asked freshmen and sophomores whether they access the internet using their smartphone. The two categories of data are class and mobile access. So these columns right here talk about how many people said yes, they use their phone for internet, or no. And then of course the other side is broken up by the class. So we have the freshmen and the sophomores who were asked these questions. So for instance, each entry in the table, so every number you see here is what they call a joint frequency. This is what they mean by joint frequency, all these four numbers in here. So that's why it says it there. The sums of the rows and the columns in the two-way table, that's what we call the marginal frequencies. So what we're going to be doing to find these marginal frequencies, I'm going to add. I'm going to add these numbers, and then that goes here. I'm going to add these numbers going this way, and that goes in there. For my marginal frequency, it's basically the total. That's what a marginal frequency is. But remember, I don't just add numbers going side to side. I could also do it down here at the bottom. So when they say you're going to have a marginal frequency, it means I'm going to find about 5 numbers on this list. And all I have to do is just do a bunch of addition. So the best way to show you that is, well, to actually do this, okay? So it's the same problem about freshmen and sophomores that we just saw here. And they want me to find the marginal frequencies, which means they want me to fill these out. These 5 boxes. That's what we call our marginal frequency. So all they have to do is find a total. But just remember, you're going to find a total heading down, but then you're also going to find me a total going this way. All right, well, calculator time. What's 55 plus 22? 77, there. That right there is the marginal frequency for freshmen. So what about this one? What's 63 plus 12? 75. All right, well, now I'm going to head down and do addition this way. How many kids said no total? Well, 34. How many kids said yes to using mobile access? 118. Okay, there you go. So now here's the thing. This is how you know if you did everything correctly. First of all, how many freshmen did they ask this question? 75. How many freshmen? Mom, freshmen. What's the total for freshmen? 77. What's the total for sophomores? There were 75 sophomores. So how many students did they ask these questions? Where'd you get that number? You just have to add them. Exactly. All you have to do is, to fill in this box, keep adding, heading down. And if I add 77 and 75, what's that, 152? Now, here's how you check and make sure you did it right. We'll add these numbers once again. What's 118? Bless you. What's 118 plus 34? There you go. You know you did this right if these numbers add up, and you get the same number for all of them. But now by looking at it, well, now I can answer a bunch of different questions, and this is where you have to be careful. How many students were surveyed? So how many students did they ask questions? Yeah, thank you, right there. This is the grand total. 152 students were surveyed. All right, well, here's another different question. How many freshmen responded to the survey? So how many freshmen took the survey? That's the one we asked you earlier. Good, 77. That's the answer for this one. All right, and then how many students do not access the internet using their mobile device? There it is, 34. So every question is basically asking you to look at somewhere with right, one of these numbers. Well, when they said no, well, there's your 34 right there, 34. Questions or concerns, but you have to fill it out, but then you have to read the questions very carefully. Again, your assignment is not meant to be difficult. It's, can you read this thing? Okay? All right, well, this is a practice one, and they want you to do it, but look, let's just handle it together. You conduct a technology survey to publish on your school website. You survey students in the cafeteria about the technological devices they own. The results are shown in a two-way table. Find the marginal frequencies. Again, when you hear this word, and it's in our word wall, it just means you're going to give me totals. All you're going to do, sorry, now you can see it. You're just going to give me a total. All I need you to do is add up a bunch of stuff. And look at what they asked students. They said, do you have a tablet? Yes or no? Do you have a cell phone? Yes or no? All right, so let me ask you this. How many students have a tablet and a cell phone? They have a tablet and a cell phone. How many people? Whoa, careful. See, I haven't even done any of this. That means I'm asking you for one of these. It's called the joint frequency. How many own a tablet and they own a cell phone? 124. They said yes to tablet and yes to cell phone. 124 kids have a cell phone and a tablet. How many of them only have a cell phone but not a tablet? There it is, the 219. Okay? So we can ask you questions about these numbers as well. It's not always going to be these out here. But all they wanted me to do was fill it out. So let's start with the totals on this side. So how many students said yes to a cell phone? Remember, you got to add these up, right? Say it again. 343, thank you. How many students said no to a cell phone? Which means you're adding those. 337, okay. 337, man, that's a lot of people. All right, well, now I'm going to do the total for the other direction. So right here, right, we're going to add these. How many said yes to having a tablet? 225. Okay, 225. And how many said, no, I don't have a tablet at all? 455. So now the question is, okay, well, how many kids did they ask? Because that's what this number is going to be. 680. Did you get that by adding this way or by adding this one? Would it matter? No, remember, this is the grand total. This is how many kids they asked about this. Okay? You should get the same number from both. All right, questions there? All right, do me a favor. Take a moment. You are going to try on page 29, do these two problems here really quick. Okay? So fill it out, get your calculator, and answer these little mini questions that are there. Just number 1 and number 2. There's no practice. That's why I need you to do it here. So try number 1 and number 2. All right, with our next page here, on example number 2, it says, you conduct a survey that asks 286 students in your freshman class whether they play a sport or a musical instrument. Now, there's a big number right there. Your survey that you did, you asked 286 students. Remember, all of them were freshmen. Whether they play a sport, all right, so they either play a sport or they play a musical instrument. Okay, 118 of the students play sports. All right, so I'm gonna put that in green. 118 play a sport. 64 of those students play an instrument. So 64 of those students play an instrument. All right, we have 3 numbers now. So we're gonna have to put them in the right spot. 93, okay, here's a 4th number. 93 of the students do not play a sport or an instrument. So this one's kind of unique there. 93 said no sport, no instrument. They said no to both. Organize the results in a two-way table and include the marginal frequency. So all they want me to do is fill this thing out, which means we have to be very careful where we put these numbers. You can't just randomly put them anywhere. All right, you conduct a survey of 286 students. Where am I writing 286? Where? Like right here, total? No, it's total, right? Yeah, that's the one. I know what you guys were talking about. But we're going to have to name the column and the row. So, yeah, right there, that's the 286. Because that's the total number of students that were surveyed. So we know that much. All right, well, we had another number here. 118 play a sport. Well, here's the word sport. They said yes to it, right? Because they said, yes, I play a sport. So then where am I writing the 118? Under yes, 118 of the students play a sport. So you sure we're putting the 118 just right here that said yes? Yeah, the total, right? That's how many students said, yeah, I play a sport completely. That's my 118 right there. Okay. 64 of those, okay, so I'm talking about the 118. 64 of those play an instrument also. So where am I writing the 64? Under the yes for that one, right? So there's the 64. All right, one more number, 93. 93 of the students don't play a sport and don't play an instrument. So where am I going to write the 64? Sorry, the 93 right there. Where am I writing the 93? On the no-no. All right, so 93 on the no-no. There you go. That's the best way to describe it. All right, that's it. That's all I have. And what they're saying is, well, fill out the rest. Okay. Let me ask you this. How do you find this number right here? Well, remember, didn't we say that to get these numbers you have to add? Yeah, what's the opposite of adding? Subtraction, no dividing. All right, well, all you have to do is go, and I can make it fit. Look, 118 minus 64. So what's 118 minus the 64? So there's 54 kids who said yes to a sport, but no to instrument. They don't play an instrument. Only 50 of them. 54 only play a sport. Okay, well, which one do you want to find now? Because we got to fill them all out. So which one do you want to do next? Can we get any of these yet? No. Can I get this one right here? Oh, yeah, we can do this one. Because what am I going to do to find that one? Yeah, to get the ones on the outside, we always add. So 54 plus 93. Well, what's 54 plus 93? 147. All right. Could we have already found, let me see, this one right here? Can we find that one? No, you sure? Yeah, if you already have these two numbers, right? What do we do to these two to get this one? No. Listen to the question. What do I do with these two to get this one? Add. So how am I going to find this one? Subtract. all I'm going to do is go 286 minus the 118. All right, so what's that going to be? I'm hearing 168. Okay, good. And so now that I have all of that, well then let's see, which one am I still missing? I'm missing this one right here. How am I going to find this empty one? Subtract again, but who am I subtracting this time? Yeah, the 168, because that's the bigger number, minus the 93, because remember, we're going this way. So I have to use these two numbers. All right, what's 168 minus 93? 75, is that what I heard? 75, thank you. And now, how do I find this very last box right here? Add them. Because to get a total, you have to add. So what's 168? Sorry, what's 75? Sorry, 75 plus 64. 139. Is there a different way I could have found this one? Yeah, subtract these two, right? If I just go this way. And then that's it. They just wanted me to fill one of these out. Okay? Nothing else. Now, if you look at your homework, flip it over. Flip the page, the homework over. The homework. The paper you picked up. See how there's some blank ones? At least you just have to fill it out. You don't have to worry about, well, where am I going to put it? Everything's already there. Okay? You just have to fill it out. So we're going to do this last part of the notes. Relative frequencies. So according to the word wall, if they say marginal, that just means total. Well, relative frequencies, as soon as we hear the word relative, it just means one thing. You're going to need percents. And if we remember our elementary days, percents come from fractions. And here's where you have the grand total over whatever you're looking for. Right? Maybe they want a percent of female over, so whatever the idea might be. So we're just going to say the possible over the total. Just remember, this is going to give you a decimal. So we are going to have to review how to turn a decimal back into a percent, but we'll do that as it comes along. But the idea is, as soon as it says relative, this is where the percent talk comes in. All right. Now, a joint relative frequency is the ratio of frequency that is not the total row or the total column. So basically, these. If I'm going to use this example, these are the joint. We had already said that earlier. And then it says relative. Well, that means I'm going to write percentages in here. That's what we're going to be doing. Marginal relative frequency, well, it is the sum of the joint relative frequencies, which means I'm just going to add again. That's really all I'm doing for a row or for a column, because when we do marginal, that just means this. This is marginal out here, the outskirts, the outside. So this is marginal. This has always been joint. It was the same thing earlier. It is now as well. Now the last little thing it says, when finding relative frequencies in a two-way table, you can use the corresponding decimals or percent. So it's going to be one or the other. So here's the best way to show you. The best way is with an example. Okay? A two-way table shows the results of a survey that asked college-bound high school students whether they plan to major in a medical field. So here's the juniors, here's the seniors, but here's what we need. We need a total. All right, we'll start adding, but then I'm going to need a total here. So you see, you still need this. You just have to stretch it out yourself. So I need you to, once again, fill that out. You see, you can't do that here yet. This is for relative, they said. All right, so take a moment, fill out this table here. Remember, you're just adding and subtracting, no fractions yet. We're not ready for that yet. Because I'll tell you right now, there's one big number I need, and it's going to be this one. That's going to be the big number we need. So if they ask you to fill out a relative frequency table, you have to do all this first. All right. So keep working on it. I'm going to start writing some of the numbers in so you can double check your numbers as you go. But notice, if you're saying, yeah, but they didn't write that stuff for me. Well, yeah, because you can stretch out lines. You can do it yourself. So 225, 455. Does anybody have the grand total, which is going to be the most important number, by the way? 680. Thank you. That's it. This is now the most important number for us because that's how many people we're serving. So when they want me to do a relative frequency, meaning percentages for relative frequency, here's what they want. What was the number in here before? Pointing to it right there, everybody. 124, but I need to turn that into a percentage. Well, I'm going to go 124 divided by 680, and that's why it was important to get this number. All right, let me just get these ready. What about here? I'm going to have 680, but what's the number on top for this one? Yeah, 219. I'm just going to get them ready now. Even this one, you have to do that for. There's the 680, but now I'm going to put 343 right here for that one. And you're going to do the same for all of them. So we're just going to get them ready, and then we'll let the calculator help us figure out these percentages. So I've got that, 236 over 680. So let's do these first, because I'm going to show you something else you can do with this, okay? All right. So here we go. Calculator time. We're going to push that fraction button. 124, 680. And yes, we're going to need that double arrow button. All right, we just need 2 decimals. So it's either 18 or 19. Well, look next door. It's just a 2, so what am I going with? 18. So 0.18. Okay? Right. All right, keep it going, right? 219, 680. So 219 divided by 680. This might be a little faster. Yep. 0.32. And then here's the one I wanted you to see. I'm going to do one more. 343 divided by 680. And then I got 50 for this one. What's 0.18 plus 0.32? 0.18, bless you, plus 0.32. What did I get? Yeah, there it is. That's the same one. So that's why I really only need to do these 4, because then all I do is just look, I just start adding. Just like you did earlier. You can either make it its own fraction or just start adding. Anybody have this one for me here? 0.15. All right, what about this one? 0.35. All right, bless you. So then look, if you have these 4, we'll just start adding, right? Straight down. This is going to be 0.33 for this one. If you add straight down, this is 0.67. If I add straight across, right? 15 and 35, well, that's 0.50. All right, well, how do you always find this number? Yeah, so add. What's 0.50 plus 0.50? 1. What's 0.33 plus 0.67? 1. There it is. I have officially filled it out. Now, I know we set percentages, so here's what a percentage would be. You move it twice. That's 18%. You move it twice. That's 32%. So what percentage is this? What percent is this one? Not 1. You got to move it twice. This is 100%. This one right here is 33%. This one is 67%. This one is 50%. That one was 50%. That's why they add up to 100. So just remember, when you're writing it as a percentage, well, just move the decimal twice. That's all you have to do, move it twice. So now look at the question. What percentage of seniors, only seniors, so can I use that 680 that I used earlier? No, they said seniors only, are not planning on majoring in a medical field. So how many seniors, so look at my list. I actually have to go back to this one. How many seniors? 337. Percentage of seniors only, 337, and they said no to the medical field. Well, how many of those seniors said no to the medical field? So that means I can't use any of these numbers, unfortunately. I've got to use their two. So that means I'm going to go 236 divided by 337. All right, let the calculator get to work. 236 divided by 337. So 0. What? 70. The reason I wrote 2 is, how do you write it as a percent? They asked for a percentage, not a decimal. 70%. That's why don't just write the 7. Give it that extra 0 so you don't forget that it's 70%. That's the answer right there. And then finally, what percentage of only the juniors? Okay, only juniors. All right, well, look at your list up here. Only juniors would be this number. That's the total. Are going to plan on majoring in a medical field. So basically, how many of them said yes? So I have to use these two numbers, the 124 and the 343. So 124 over the 343. All right, let the calculator help you out there again. 124 divided by 343, because that's how many juniors we had. All right, how am I writing this? 0. What? 36, but what percent is that? 36%. There's my answer. So we do have to be very careful, because sometimes they just said only the seniors, only the juniors. Now, they had said all students, then I used the 680. Remember, these are the percentages for all students only. But if they break it down to something smaller, then we need to do the same when we write our fraction. All right, with that said, we're officially done with these notes and the notes for the year. So right now, look at the classwork. Sorry, the homework. Look at your homework. Open it up, or make sure it's ready to go, and start working on it for the next few minutes.